Hi, this is Dr. MJ coming to you from beautiful Boston, Massachusetts. This is the Women in Dentistry podcast, where we feature women in dentistry making waves and leading the industry through the next decade. I am your host, Dr. Mary Jane Hanlon, a former dental assistant, dental hygienist, and now dentist. I'm very pleased to introduce you today to Sandra Berger. Sandra Berger is the CE Concierge. She founded Superior Seminar Solutions, a continuing education concierge company to provide solutions and support in all aspects of continuing education and meeting planning in the healthcare industry. Sandra graduated from The Ohio State University with an RDH and a BS in education. She worked clinically and with a dental study club for many years, then transitioned to a full-time corporate position. Sandra's entrepreneurial side was enhanced while attending CareerFusion. Inspired, she wanted to start her own company. She's now the go-to resource for continuing education among her peers, working with individuals and companies of all sizes as their AGD PACE or ADA CERP concierge. She welcomes Smiles at CE, Dental Hub 360, and the CE Exchange as some of her star clients. She is active in the New Jersey Dental Hygiene Association, serving as president, vice president, and speaker of the House, a state delegate, as well as various component positions. She's currently the state CE chairman and charter member of the ADHA Coding Ad Hoc Committee. Sandra co-authored the Cannabis Chairside Primer and has published articles in various journals. Received the Sunstar RDH Award of Distinction, the Francis D. Fleur Outstanding Service Award, and is a mentorship and Beyond the Operatorial alumni and proud DO member. She has presented at such prestigious conferences as the Yankee Dental Meeting, Greater New York Dental Meeting, and RDH under one roof. She loves sharing her knowledge of time management, smoking cessation, electronic cigarettes, and medical marijuana with the dental world. Sandra lives in New Jersey with her husband, Jonathan, and dogs, Chip and Wendy. She and Chip are a certified therapy team visiting schools, libraries, nursing homes, and rehab centers. It is now my pleasure to bring you to my interview with Sandra Berger. Sandy, I am so excited to bring you on the show today. Thank you so much for taking time to be with me and for sharing your story. So without any further ado, if you'd love to tell the audience about your story, I'd be very thankful. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to our channel. And also don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss out on a single episode. Thanks so much.
Sure. I first got into dentistry because I fell and broke my 2 front teeth when I was in 6th grade. And I really wanted to figure out, I asked so many questions, and fortunately I had a great dentist, an even greater hygienist who answered everything and went through endo and crown and bridge. And it was always very interesting to me. And I always wanted to go into healthcare. I thought I would be, nurse or doctor or something. And my sister and I were at the beach one day, ran into a friend of hers from where we used to live, and they had both moved in their senior year of high school. So it was remarkable that we met at the Jersey Shore, and she started telling us about my sister's 6 years older than I am. I was going into my sophomore year in high school. And she says that she just graduated as a dental hygienist. And my sister's like, oh, what's a dental hygienist? And she tells us, and both of us look at each other, and it was like, this is what I was looking for. And I hemmed and hawed about physical therapy and nursing. And then it was like, oh my goodness. And so the next summer, my sister, who fortunately has been a good friend, went to visit a friend of hers at Ohio State. And she came back, application in hand, and said, here, it's the best place in the world. They have a dental hygiene program. And so I ended up in dental hygiene at Ohio State.
You mean the Ohio State?
The Ohio State University.
I know, you have to say the Ohio
Now,
State.
it wasn't that when I was there, but, and then can I say, ironically, I was at a, what's called a shiva call in the Jewish religion. After a funeral, you go visit the people, and the family is pretty religious. So the women and the men were separated, and I was in the kitchen with the wife of whose father had died, and she introduced me to a friend. We started talking, and I told her, you know, that I grew up in Plainfield, but or that like my family grew up in Plainfield, but I really grew up in Freehold because we moved. My sister was a senior. She goes, "Oh, wow. I was a senior in Plainfield and moved also." And so I asked her what her name was. And it was the woman who I met on the beach.
Oh my goodness, you're kidding.
I looked at her and I said, "You're a dental hygienist, aren't you?" And she looks at me. She goes, and she knew my sister. She had remembered my sister. And she goes, "Yeah, why?" I said, you probably don't remember this, but I met you on Brant Avenue Beach right before my 10th grade. You had just graduated, and I became a hygienist because of you."
Oh my gosh, what a great story.
It was really great because I had always wanted to, find her and tell her, but they, weren't really friends. And I definitely made her day.
Oh, I bet you did. We don't know, and we all of us underestimate our impact on the world. And that one person just saying the right thing at the right time affected your whole life.
Yep. Absolutely. And so many my kids, when they were trying to figure out what to do and stuff, they would always look back and say, "Well, but from 10th grade, you knew what you wanted to do, and you're still, you've changed a little bit, but you're still doing it." And not many people get that.
I know. I feel very blessed because I was young too when I realized what I wanted to do. So did you practice dental hygiene for a long time?
I did. I practiced for most of my career, I practiced in a pediatric office, like 2.5 days a week, and then a general dentist 2 days a week. I did a maternity leave in the pediatric office. And when the woman came back, I told him I needed full time. So he said, "What if I find you another job?" So he found me the general office. So I was able to share the two, and they were very close friends. And then after my second child, I decided that I needed to, not work quite as much. And I ended up working in the general office, and I worked for him for 27 years.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, in the same office. And he still does my dentistry, and well, the office does my dentistry. He's kind of
Is he retired?
he's going to retire probably this year.
Oh, it's always so sad when you come to the end of your career because, having sold my practice, I miss so many of the patients and so many of the interactions. And every once in a while, it's so funny because you'll have a thought about somebody or remember a wonderful thing about somebody. And, oh, remember that patient? And, I keep in touch with my staff all the time. So, we're always in touch. And occasionally they've run into patients out in the community and stuff. But, oh my gosh, it's a sad time when you go to retire.
Yeah, it was a hard decision when I ended up leaving him, but it was nice. And I live in the same town, so I run into patients all the time, and I walk 3 times a week with the receptionist who's still there, and it was a great part of my
That's
life.
awesome. So where did you go from there?
After Mitchell, my second child, was born, I just worked for the one office. And then when my youngest was around 5 or 6, I was working with my sister, who was very, very early entrepreneur. She had a computer when they were, smaller than your iPhones are now. And we learned mail merge and all this. And she did an online kind of a mail order company. And she had also sold in a flea market, which I had worked in all through high school and college. And she got really big and wanted more of me. And I knew that I loved the academics of it and the administrative part and the computer part for sure, but I wasn't ready to give up dentistry. And so I looked for a job that was, coordinating, and I could use my computer skills, but was still dentistry. And I became a coordinator for the Seattle Study Club.
Oh my gosh, what a small world. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and that was in 2001. And I remember one of my very first, so I started in like March. So I created 2001, 2002 academic year, and one of my very first speakers was stuck in an airport in Wisconsin on September 11th. On his way here. And it was, it was amazing, but, to have to deal with that. But it was great. The Seattle Study Club that I coordinated was the first branch. And so we were pretty established. I learned so much from that. And I made a lot of changes in there and in myself. And that's where I found my love for quality continuing education and quality events and meetings, and how, it's not hard to handle the details.
Right. You just have to be focused on the details.
Right. And how just a little tweak can make something so much better. And it's not all that much effort. So
then that led you, you were there for 10 years, you said?
I worked there for about 10 years. And then I left. When I left there, I went and worked it was kind of like, and even when I was in high school, I would kind of get these like ideas like, I want to work in a movie theater. I want to work in this. And I would like write it down or imagine it, and these things would happen. So I thought, I want to work in a hospital dentistry program.
Wow.
So I still working for Fred 2 days a week. I worked part-time in a hospital residency program. And it was amazingly different than what I thought it would be. And I'm not real good with like the politics of everything, and just let me do my job and I'll do it. So I started working for a hospital residency program, and I loved it, but it was very political. And again, I learned a lot. And then a company was looking for full-time people, and it was something I was really interested in. And I searched long and hard and decided to leave both clinical. That's when I left clinical. And I went to work for Oral DNA.
Oh, wow. I remember them.
Yeah. And I learned a lot of the science and a lot of sales, and realized I didn't love sales all that much. But it was a great job. It was really interesting, innovative. It's funny because I had to have a COVID test a couple weeks ago, and I had the saliva one, and it was, the woman was explaining it to me, and then I explained to her, what I used to do, and ended up teaching her a few things. So
I have no doubt.
So that was great, but they ended up going out of business. They're actually still in business, but they ended up restructuring and getting rid of all of their sales reps, clinical educators. And in New Jersey, I had 18 months of unemployment, and you're allowed to create a business that, as long as it doesn't equal the amount that you were getting for unemployment, and then you would have to go off unemployment. so I thought, let me try and help people with continuing education. And I had applied for AGD application and for ADA approval while I was the Seattle Study Club coordinator, and I knew how to write course descriptions and objectives, and I even did graphic design because I designed all the flyers. And so I started, helping people.
Do that.
Yeah. And I loved it. And I didn't really advertise that much, but I did put it out there. I started doing a lot of booth representation, which was fun. You go to Greater New York and you stand behind a booth. I mean, to me, that was, I always wanted to be on the other side of the table when I was at conventions. And then I found another opportunity that was really, I felt too good to pass up. And that was Solution Reach was starting a medical division. And I love dentistry. I have 2 children that have gone through serious health issues, and I've navigated the medical system really, really well. I'm very proud of that. And so that to me was more exciting, was to be able to talk with physicians and orthopedists and that with that program, because I love the program. And so I started that, and a few months as I'm working there, I only worked for them for like 4 or 5 months. People were still calling me, can you help me with this? And I need an application. What would you charge me to do an application? And I don't have the time to do that. And so I was still working it, and I found out I was going to be a grandma.
Oh, my favorite thing.
Yes. And I'm thinking, I haven't really worked at my business. I was worried about putting 150% into another company that might tear your heart out, which has happened to me twice before. And I thought, why not, do it in my own company? So I left and started Superior Seminar Solutions.
Wow, that's awesome. What a great story. One of the things that I think you and I have touched on before is the amazing amount of opportunities there are when people just open up their eyes and see what the need is. So you're really good at assessing needs and seeing what's out there that you might be able to fulfill as the void.
Well, I like doing things that a lot of people don't like to do. The behind the scenes person. I see, it's funny because I see there was just a recent cover, all these women that were, made a difference or something. And I'm thinking, I have done everything that every one of those people, but I'm not like, I don't like being in the spotlight. I like being, behind the scenes. And then I like detail and organization, and that's difficult for some people.
Oh, it is. It is, definitely. But some people's minds just don't work like that. And obviously yours does. I think in dentistry too, we love minutia. We love the little things. And, if you are a great in the dental field, most times you're really good with the minutia and the details.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Great story. So you have done how many different roles? Because I kind of lost count. You've done clinical hygiene, you've done event planning, you've done CE management. So for example, AGD and ADA. You've done sales,
Yeah. I've done clinical education.
And you've done hospital dentistry, which is a little bit different than traditional clinical dentistry.
It is.
That's like 6 different things. Good for you. Pretty amazing.
And, it's nice because I never got to the point where I actually still have my license and insurance, and I subbed maybe a year and a half ago for someone, and I came back, with my thumb hurting me and, and all that. But I never really got to that point while I was practicing clinically. I just transitioned because I was growing and it was something I wanted to do. It wasn't that I hated clinical and needed to get out.
I think you just made a very good choice of words. You are growing. And I think that that's what's necessary in order to see those opportunities, is to have an open mindset, that you're open to growth and you're open to maybe potentially doing other things.
Mm-hmm.
You have taken all of this on and organized it all. What type of advice would you give any of the women out there, whether it's hygiene, whether it's assisting dentists? What kind of advice would you give them as a potential to navigate into being an entrepreneur?
Get a business coach. Sooner rather than later.
Since you and I share the same business coach, I can say with 100% enthusiasm, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, you think that it's going to cost so much money, you're not making that much money, but it's just like, you would never become a professional ball player without hiring a coach. When your kids were little and they weren't struggling in soccer, did you get them extra help? Yes. And so that would be my one piece of advice, is to get help, and there's different levels. Do you have to hire your own? No, maybe not in the beginning, but it's not as costly as you think it is. Even the small tweaks make such a difference.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. What is the single best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
I think it's that you have to give it your all, and that if you don't go for the win, you lose. And it's not that you have to win at all times, but just to always try your best.
Yeah, push yourself. Absolutely. I think so many times people are afraid to launch into something like this because they're afraid of failing. And quite honestly, I have failed at so many things prior to becoming successful, that all those pieces lined up together created the person I am today. So they were all very valuable learning experiences. And I don't know that I would be as successful today as if I hadn't gone through some of those failures. So I think they all teach you something.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny because one thing that I learned very recently is from our business coach is that done is better than perfect. And that just goes against, you're detailed, everything has to be perfect, went against everything that I ever learned. But I was struggling with my website and I'd never finished it. And I was told, you know what, done is better than perfect. Just get it up and you can, and not every situation would I agree, that that's true, but this was a great piece of advice.
Absolutely. Having recently struggled with my own website, I can tell you, okay, it's up. It's not perfect, but you have to,
And I don't even know if I've looked at it since it's been up, but
I've looked at it. It looks good. It looks really good. So good for you. Who do you think has made the most impact on your life? Could be anyone. I mean, early career or later on. And obviously you can't say Mark because you just did.
yeah. I wish I had been with him long enough, because then I would have to say him. I would say the dentist that I worked for 27 years. He is an amazing man. He's an average dentist. He, he always understood my need to want CE even before I started working for Seattle. And he would let me go to any CE course, encourage me to go, not let me, encourage me to go to any CE course. And I would come back with all these, oh, we have to add xylitol, we have to do this. And, he would read anything I gave him and pick and choose what he wanted to do. And he would do things. he, every single day that I worked for him, he stopped what he was doing and said, "Thank you, Sandra."
Ah,
Looked me, I mean, his wife went through, a horrible battle with ovarian cancer. He would be on the phone with the doctors or with her, and he would say, "Excuse me, stop what I'm," and say that, say thank you.
wow.
And he had a lot of outside interests that he encouraged other people. Like he would take us to some, Ethiopian restaurant for dinner that, I mean, I traveled and was out, but the other one woman that I worked with would never, even go to probably for Chinese food if he hadn't done things like that. So I think in my dental career, he was part of it. And then actually there's another person that I have to mention is Elijah Desmond. I met him in maybe 2015 or 16. He was looking for someone to do his AGD application for his company. And we just, clicked. I mean, he's younger than my oldest son, but it was, I can be his mother when I need to, and we're equals when I don't need to be. And he's just a genius. And he invited me as a mentor on something that he does called mentorship, which is a cruise. There's about 20 people. And I think I learned as a mentor, more than the people there that were being mentored. And he's just makes me crazy when he, has no concept of time and will call me and get me this in 2 minutes. But he just has a drive, and he pushes me, and he has helped me with my own business moving forward. He'll help me with pricing, and you know and he's just, for his age, he is just remarkable. I mean, for any age, he's remarkable.
He's ahead of his time, I think, obviously, because I agree with you as somebody who's observed him over the last year. He's nonstop. He has really developed a keen sense of what success is for him. And he's going full tilt, and don't get in his way, because I think he's like the bulldozer, like, come on, people, either you're with me or you're not, because I'm going.
And he's calmed down. I mean, when I first met him, I can't tell you, people would tell me, "Are you crazy?" Whatever. It's like, but I saw it, and he was young, and he's now, he just has the energy and more maturity, and he's great.
Yeah, the passion that he lives his life with is just pretty amazing. And I, too, have benefited from some of his advice. And so I'm going to say kudos also, because he's amazing. He gives without expecting anything back in return. And we need more Elijah Desmonds in this world, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And he created a team that are, 5 of my closest women friend that I will ever have, whether I stop working for them today or, keep it. And so it's been very, very fun.
Awesome. What kind of obstacles have you overcome in your lifetime? Is there anything that comes to mind as an obstacle that you've felt challenged with?
Um, I am not an extrovert.
Mhm.
And so dealing with the public is a struggle for me, and being a business owner and the one who has to go out there and, oh, and this is what it costs, like, so those things are obstacles. And again, I didn't, I went to leadership classes and had joined organizations, but I didn't hire the right people to really help me, and realize that even though you might be a sole proprietor, you can't do it alone.
So true. So true. You can't do it alone. You absolutely have to have support, without a doubt. I would never know that about you, because I remember meeting you for the first time, and I thought you were lovely and just very outgoing and made everybody on the trip very comfortable. So I'm actually surprised to know that about you.
Yeah, I am. And when I'm the hostess, when I'm like, then I could, because it's still about you, it's not about me. If you, need coffee or need this or something. But when it's just about me, yeah, I struggle with
Struggle a little
that.
bit with that. Yeah. That's nice because that means you always have somebody else in mind, which is great, right? Instead of I think so many times, you've seen it, I've seen it, self-absorbed people, you know, you don't get anything out of that relationship, and it's kind of an empty feeling, right? You try to help, but it's they have no sense of gratitude, no sense of return, so
Yeah.
so confidence wise, one of the things I shared with you earlier is that, I observe a lot of lack of confidence in females in our field. Confidence wise, you seem very self assured. You seem very, obviously, very smart. Did you always have a lot of confidence growing up, or was that something that you acquired as time went on?
Definitely something I acquired as time went on. And in stages, I live in New Jersey, so I went 550 miles away to school, which, was
A big deal back then.
big deal back then. Yeah. And especially because my sister and brother and father and mother all went to the same college, which is half an hour, and my husband, which is half an hour away. So that instilled a little bit of confidence. And I wouldn't have considered myself a confident person until recently. But when I look back, there were times where, I had it because I worked in the pedo office. And I mean, I was the one that was working. So you can't tell me what type of instrument to use if I don't like that instrument. And the other women in it was a big office, and there were even 3 hygienists at a time, and they would come to me and say, Sam, we need new scalers, can you ask him for them? Or they, the gauze that he ordered was horrible, can you suggest this? And so I was always that person, and I never felt like it was just confident. I just felt like I'm the one who's using it. It's, you know why don't I get it? And then one day this is back when they wrote checks. He would write our checks on Friday afternoon, and we would be done for the day and waiting around for him to write our checks. And
Control, right?
yeah. And one day I had to be somewhere. And so I said, you know what, I'll get my check on Monday. And he was floored. Truly and honestly didn't understand how I could leave and get it on Monday. And he never made me wait for my check again. He wrote my check at lunchtime, but so as I look back, there were little things that show that yes, I did have confidence, but it's just really been, pretty recent that I feel, like I can say yes, I'm a confident person. And I think a part of confidence is also knowing what you don't know.
Right, right.
And that there's so much that you need to learn.
Well, and I think experience is a great teacher, number one, but also, recognizing is a huge thing, especially in dentistry, I think, because recognizing that you don't know enough about root canals, so you shouldn't get into trouble with that molar endo by doing it just because you might need to fill the schedule or, have a little bit of extra income, because you always get into trouble during those things. You have to know what to pick and choose and not go down those rabbit holes when you get tempted.
Yes. And I would tell people, like, oh, he always refers me out. And, someone who doesn't refer out sometimes might be afraid for other people to see their work. so that's not a sign that they're not a good dentist. It's a sign that they are when they know where their level of expertise is.
Absolutely. Now, is there somebody in dentistry who inspires you today? Could be Elijah, but is there anybody else that comes to mind?
There's you're one of the inspirations
you.
with all your changing. John Stamper, who's just knocking things out of the park, and Ann Duffy. My Smiles at Sea team. These guys are just there's nothing they can't do. It's the same. If they can't figure it out, they'll find someone to figure it out, and they're always positive even when they're not positive, and it's a really nice atmosphere to be in.
I love the fact that they don't take no for an answer, that they're going to solve it. And there's no such thing as no. I truly believe there's no such thing as impossible. And, I know Elijah is just like that as well, but there is no such thing as impossible. We are all possible. And why not just go for it?
Yeah. Figure it out, pivot, it's great.
Absolutely. Is there one thing that people would be surprised to know about you?
Maybe the introvert. I think, a lot of people would be surprised. Maybe the fact that I physically wrote a bucket list and am methodically working through it.
Oh my gosh, that's a great one.
A lot of people know it though, but I add a lot too. So
there you go. Have you kept a running list your whole life?
Mm-hmm. And actually, no, I started when I was in 2007. I won the Sunstar RDH Award of Distinction and became very good friends with Noelle Kelsch.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And she had written one and told me, and also at one of our Seattle Study Club coordinator conferences, there was a woman, I can't remember her name, but she wrote a book, Write It Down, Make It Happen.
Yes, I love that book. I've read it.
Yeah, and then Noelle, added to that, and so I did that, and it's good. And I didn't work really hard at it for a while, and then I lost my sister-in-law and decided, this is crazy. I really have to do it, and then you forget again, and and then I actually, lucked out because in January, February, and March, I was away like almost every weekend. I went to 3 baseball games in Arizona. We were in Florida, we were in Omaha. So I would feel a lot worse about this pandemic if I hadn't ramped up my my bucket list trying to fill it.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you miss traveling?
I do.
Yeah.
I miss traveling a lot.
Me too.
But we're trying. We went to Niagara Falls for the weekend.
Oh, nice.
And it was nice. There was, only Northeast Americans who were there. It wasn't crowded at all. It was my first time. And that was probably one of my first things I wrote on my bucket list.
To go see Niagara
to go to Niagara Falls. I did go fly to see my grandchildren.
Nice.
But no real fun trips.
Mm-hmm. Any aha moments when you realize that you are doing exactly what you were meant to do?
I have them all the time.
People that are on purpose with their lives have them all the time. That's what I have found anyway.
Yeah. So a big part of my business is helping companies become AGD or ADA approved providers. And the application is daunting. I do maybe 6 to 10 a year, and I still have to haul myself up in a room, put the dogs in daycare, make sure my husband's home to take care of them and concentrate. And I just, signed a new person on Monday. And when I'm writing back, it's like, it's still like exciting to me that
Yeah.
now this company is now going to be able to, to educate other people and give CE the right way.
Excellent. Excellent. That's awesome. What's your favorite way to manage stress?
Reading. If I don't have a good book, I'm depressed, and I can read 2 or 3 books simultaneously.
Wow.
I'm listening lately, and I'm reading one, and yeah, either that or walking my dogs.
Both are great ways to release a little stress and get rid of a little of adrenaline that shouldn't be there. Absolutely. How about a personal motto or a mantra that you live by?
It's even on my business cards. Attitude is everything.
It is. Oh my gosh.
And I have a family member that suffers from depression, and I remember one time years ago I said, just try to, think positive. And they turned to me and said, if I could, I would. And that was just, a pivot, because I knew that how important it was and how much they needed help. But it's really, you just take a spin. I mean, one of the women I work with, Dana Myers, she will, you could, have your hand cut off and, lose $100,000, and she'll figure out, well, you don't have to pay taxes on it. You need less rings, like anything. And like we'll always say, it's a Dana spin. And, I love that. And I try to do that. Yeah.
Amazing talent. Good for her. I know Dana from the Smiles at Sea group, and oh my gosh, she's an amazing person too. Absolutely.
So I didn't always have that. It's funny because at the mentorship cruise, we were lined up in the muster area. And if anybody has been on a cruise, because it's going to be different going forward, obviously, but they pack you in. There's like, you're right next to each other, and there's maybe 10 deep, and they patrol you so that you can learn how to put a life jacket on and where you're supposed to go. Nobody's listening. And one person took their phone out, and the guy that was in charge of our area, like, almost literally dove to get this person to turn her phone off. And so we would talk, and I would say, that's the muster guy. And I used to be that muster guy. Was so detail oriented that I was unbendable. And it's nice not to be that rigid anymore, and to find the attitude that makes it positive rather than negative. And, even fake it till you make it, kind of thing. So
Yeah, not an easy thing to do, to give up. I think it comes down to maybe a control thing, because if you don't have people following the rules, you're not controlling the situation, right? And that's your responsibility, is to control that. But you've obviously given that up a little bit, which makes you feel better, and everybody else feels better because of it too.
right. Or find different ways, for people to follow the rules, not your way.
Exactly. Do you have a guilty pleasure or secret dream that you want to share with the audience?
My guilty pleasure is that I probably have ice cream every single day of my life. Um,
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
and my secret dream, which again isn't really all that secret, but is I plan on visiting every state. I'm getting there, and just travel anywhere that I can.
Can go.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed sharing your story with the audience. It has been a pleasure to hear more about your background and who you are as a person. So I just want to say thank you so much, Sandy, for being with us.
Thank you. This is a wonderful podcast and everybody's learning so much from it.
Great. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for listening to the Women in Dentistry podcast with Dr. MJ Hanlon. If you like our show and want to know more about us, check out our website, thewomenindentistry.com, or please leave us a review on iTunes. Join us for our next episode as we bring you another amazing woman leading the way for the next generation.